Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 39 of CO Sports Talk. It's a big episode. It's the CCS high school football special here at CO Sports Talk. Me and Casey both rocking the new haircuts. I got the mullet, and he got the mullet mohawk combo for playoffs because both of our teams made it. So that's hype. But we have a huge special guest. His name is Ethan Castle. You might know him from Twitter. Big high school football guy, really knowledgeable about CCS. So we're gonna have him on and discuss the playoff brackets with him. So I'm excited to get into this one.
Rocks. It's gonna be lit. We're gonna talk about all of them, even like Division 5, the irrelevant schools. You guys are gonna get your time to shine. So shout out you, Andrew Hill.
Shout out Andrew Hill.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We now welcome on a great guest here, Ethan Castle. Prep to Prep contributor. Is that your technical name?
Yeah, technically Prep to Prep senior contributor. Got some freelance work and some bylines elsewhere. Have a couple things running on games from this weekend in the San Mateo Daily Journal since they were stretched a little thin between football coverage and volleyball playoffs and everything else going on.
Yeah. I got to say the playoff projections were pretty accurate. I mean, you guys in your latest one had Sacred Heart being a 3 seed in D4, and that's what we were. So did a good job.
Yeah, it's all math based, whereas for basketball, the projections that I really run myself, that's more subjective. This is basically just plugging in data, although there are still some things to be interpreted, like how are leagues going to determine, co-champions, is it an outright champion versus a shared championship and things like that. And with canceled games this year across the board, a lot of teams that didn't play a full 10-game schedule, there was some stuff there that kind of, left things into, how do league bylaws get interpreted? But for the most part, it's just punch in the numbers and see what it spits out.
Yeah. All right. So let's start it with Division 5. We're going to break down all the brackets, starting with the worst one, D5. So let's share a screen. We'll start here with Division 5. Ethan, first, would you like to, break it down? Kind of just off camera a second ago, but now that we are recording.
Yeah, so I believe Aragon's the only one that's an at-large. I believe the others are all automatic bids, mainly from C leagues, though a couple are from what would be deemed as B leagues. So the way that whole terminology works, what's an A, B, and C league, in the PAL, it's pretty simple. The Bay is an A league, the Ocean's a B league, the Lake is a C league. But with some of these others, it depends on, there's a whole formula to it, to which divisions are classified as which, like Los Altos and Cupertino come out of the lower division of the SCVAL, which some years has mathematically been a C league. This year it's a B league. Same with the division SoCal's in. They finished second to Santa Cruz, lost that big rivalry game on Friday. And then that St. Francis is not the same St. Francis that you think of when you think, Mountain View, WCAL. This is St. Francis of Watsonville. So there were some folks at Cupertino that were a little confused and thought they might be facing the team that just, ran for 400 yards on Sarah, but that's not the case. It's cool to see Cupertino in a playoff position. That's usually a program that hasn't had a ton of success. San Mateo's hosting a playoff game for the first time since 2009. North Salinas was winless just a couple years ago. Aragon's been down for a few years, so it's cool to see some of these teams that are back up or up for the first time, really, and that they're going to get a shot to prove themselves against competitions kind of around their level.
Facts. So first game, Los Altos at Sokol, whatever you just said. But coach of Los Altos, he was my PE teacher in
me and Casey had him in middle school for PE, Coach DiGeronimo.
So I think they can win this one. I think they're a pretty solid team. We played them in 7v7 this summer, and their quarterback wasn't bad, actually.
Yeah, they're solid. I like one of their receivers as well. It's pretty tough. I saw their game against Fremont, and they've been really solid defensively all year. You look at their losses, other than the one to Mountain View, which is, an A league versus a B league. They've been holding most teams under 20 points. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. SoCal has played in a lot of tight games, but I'm not sure if you could consider them as battle tested, though they did just play Santa Cruz, who's having an awfully nice season. I think it's very possible Los Altos goes on the road and takes this one, though.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. And also, yeah, shout out to these Cupertino schools. I mean, Cupertino and Homestead both have been, historically good seasons. I mean, I know Homestead's 5-5, but they're a lot better than they usually have been. So.
And they got a couple of nice wins, between obviously beating you guys and beating Mountain View. And they've had some decent teams, but this is definitely one of the stronger ones. And then Cupertino, usually, they might win 2-3 games, and they've been able to. They put up a lot of points. They like to throw the ball. It's been cool to see the success they're having this year.
Yeah. Also, San Mateo usually not a very good school, and they're 8-1, so good for San Mateo.
I mean, they hadn't had a home playoff game since 2009 when they had this senior class that kind of was talked about for years after. A couple of those guys ended up going JUCO and then D1. So this is first time in a long time for them. And hopefully, even though it's a Saturday, hopefully that brings in a good crowd.
Yeah.
San Mateo was low-key frauds though, because they were 9-0 and a ton of their guys were like talking like they could like be that, and then they got crushed by BHS. But I mean,
I've never seen a Little Big game where it was over after the first quarter like this. Usually it takes a couple quarters for that to happen, but it was 27-0 after one. Would also be cool, the possibility of a San Mateo Aragon playoff game. That would be neat for those schools, but San Mateo's going to have to get through North Salinas first. I would be surprised if Aragon has much trouble with Hill. Hill is the champion of the weakest of all the divisions of all the leagues in the CCS.
it's only one school gets in.
West Valley League.
So that gives you an automatic berth then.
Yeah, as a league, as the league champ, it's just like how in March Madness, if you win like the America East tournament, you get in.
Yeah.
Same
That's like how Georgetown got in. Yeah.
Or how like
Radford gets
UMBC,
in, like,
and then
yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to pull off an upset like UMBC over Virginia, but that's how they got it.
Yeah, I got you. So they're it's like they're the 40th best team in this, but really they're probably worse than the 40th in CCS because like a team like Terra Nova is better than them technically. But
or Reardon in particular. I think Reardon's
Reardon
probably the best team that didn't get in because they passed a rule a few years ago that you got to be in the top 6 in your league to get in, and because I think coaches from public schools were tired of seeing 3-7 WCAL teams get in, even if those 3-7 WCAL teams were playoff worthy. So Reardon was the odd one out. They tied with St. Ignatius for 6th, but SI had the head-to-head win.
So is it Reardon and MIDI that are the 2 WCAL schools that didn't get in?
That is correct, yeah.
Man, MIDI had a down year. They had a sophomore QB last year, and Will Towers coming back, and he kind of disappointed them, unfortunately.
They were not great on the line. The one guy on that MIDI team I really liked, Dominic Bacabella. I don't know if you've seen him.
Yeah, I watched their highlights. I heard his name quite often.
Yeah, he's really solid. Defensive end, tight end. I think at the college level, he'd probably be more of a linebacker than a defensive end, but he's good. He's one of those guys, no matter where you put him on the field, he's going to help you and he's going to make plays.
Yeah.
All right, so that's D5. Personally, I would say that we're going to see a championship here of Aragon versus Los Altos. I think they're going to make a big run here because I don't think Cupertino I think Los Altos can beat Cupertino, and I think that I'm saying that Los Altos wins D5. That's my upset for this division.
I've got, I believe on my thing here, I filled out a little bracket thing already. I've got Aragon over Los Altos in the final. And I've got North Salinas spoiling the possibility of that, crosstown matchup. That would be pretty neat.
Facts. Yeah, there we got it for D5. Yeah.
Let's move on to D4. All right. So Casey, you can fill us in with this first matchup. I know me and you haven't really heard of Alisal, but what's your thoughts going into this one?
All I know about Alisal as of today is that they run the ball like every single play on film that we got this morning. But have you seen them play in person yet?
I have not. They're one of the Salinas teams I haven't seen, but they're in the same league with, Salinas, Palma, Hollister, Aptos. So they're battle tested. They lost to those 4 in Christopher, but they've had a pretty quality season. And they basically had a play-in game against Alvarez the other night, crosstown rivalry, and they won that to get in.
Yeah, it was a close one too, right? It was like 21-20.
Yeah, 21-20. I think they were up like 20-6, and then it ended up interesting down the stretch.
Okay.
Yeah, they do have a surprising loss to Seaside, but Seaside really got their act together towards the end of the season.
Yeah, we have that film against Seaside, and they just were not stopping them on the
Seaside made made a QB change about halfway through the year, and you look at the results after getting shut out a bunch of times, then all of a sudden, they put up 35 points back-to-back games.
Yeah. Another team with a QB change is us. And yeah, so a deceiving 3-7 as 9 of our 10 games were one touchdown losses. So, I mean, I don't know if that's like some record or not, but to be a bench player like me on Sacred Heart was not the best year because I was not going in much. Every game was close.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I would love the idea of a rematch between you guys and Hillsdale, that being one of those one-score losses. Hillsdale's offense has really been playing well lately. Granted, they've been, other than Menlo, most of the defenses they played haven't been that great, but still they've been putting up, into the 30s and 40s regularly. They had crazy comeback to beat Cappuccino and then ended up winning that game in OT. They were down 2 scores late. They recovered an onside kick. They've been running the ball really well. Josh Violette's been doing great for them, and they're going to be facing a Lincoln team that loves to ground and pound too. Lincoln's QB can really, really put on the afterburners. His name is Taden Phillips, and they can throw a bit as well. And this is actually their first time in the playoffs ever, because in past years, they played their rivalry game on Thanksgiving. They had kept that tradition going. And after years and years of, beating San Jose High by 6 touchdowns, they decided, all right, let's move this to the start of the season, play it on Labor Day, so we can actually go to the playoffs. So this is their first ever time in the playoffs.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, we already talked about Hillsdale. Pioneer is an interesting team. We hosted them at Palo Alto. We beat them 27-10, but they're a pretty decent team. I mean, they're league champions for a reason. They went 8-2. Yeah, I mean, I can see them upsetting, if you can call it that, Santa Teresa here, because I think Pioneer's a pretty decent little team there.
Yeah, I mean, it's number 1 from the B League there versus number 3 from the A League. I think that's a pretty fair matchup. Their only other loss was to Leland, who's pretty solid as well.
Yeah.
I know they're really, really big in the middle. I didn't get to see them in person, but they had a huge win over Lee. I thought Lee was going to run the table there, get to 10-0, and they held Lee to 14, and it was 7 points until late touchdown, and then they got the onside kick to finish the game. So Pioneers having a nice season, and in fact, I actually think, even though in past years I've gotten burned on this, like the BVAL's been down. It's not like when Oak Grove used to beat St. Francis with regularity, but I think Pioneer might actually go on a run and make it to the championship game.
Yeah, I filled out my bracket this morning, and I have us playing Pioneer in the finals.
I think their size in the middle against a really run-heavy team like Milpitas or Homestead would be a really good matchup for them if they can get past Santa Teresa. I think that's a game they could absolutely win because their line is way bigger than most other teams.
Yeah. I mean, they have a pretty solid defense over there. So, yeah, I like that pick as well.
If you're holding Lee to 14 points, you're doing something right.
Right.
For the whole season, they're allowing 13.5 points a game.
And this last matchup here is an interesting one because they already played and the 8 seed won. So that's why it's such a weird matchup that the 8 seed is a team that's already defeated the 1. I
mean, we played both of these teams. Obviously, we had that weird loss to Homestead. I consider that a fluke game. I think we're a better team than Homestead. But I mean, Homestead has had 2 really nice wins against Mountain View and Palo Alto, but they had a weird loss to Milpitas. But Milpitas is better than their record suggests. I mean, the defense is actually really solid, but that offense is kind of a weird one. I mean, they run the ball a lot, but when they do throw, they kind of just throw it up in double coverage and hope something happens. So I think Homestead can kind of get their revenge here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Milpitas upsets them again.
Yeah, Homestead's such an interesting team. I mean, they beat Aragon, killed them actually. Aragon beat Kings Academy, and yet they lost to Kings Academy. I was at that game. It was a weird one. And then other nights, like you said, they've got 2 really good wins, and they've played a couple other good teams tight. They barely beat Santa Clara, although they were ahead pretty comfortably.
And Santa Clara
made a late push there.
They barely beat Santa Clara, and Palo Alto beat Santa Clara by 50. So it's just like
although it was like 29-13 or something until Santa Clara got a couple of late scores.
Get
when
Santa
you've
Clara
got
out of
two
the A
teams
League.
at the end of the year that's not going to the playoffs, it's their championship. They're not gonna leave anything in the tank.
Yeah, Santa Clara needs to go to the El Camino League.
Yeah, it's tough because they're in the SCVAL there are those tweener teams, Santa Clara, Los Altos. A lot of years, although recently, they've had such low roster numbers, but Saratoga's been in that spot a lot where it's like they're too
Right.
good for the El Camino, not good enough for the De Anza,
Yeah,
and it's not a good spot to be in because no matter where you go, most of your games are going to be blowouts one way or the other.
exactly. And Saratoga, is it correct? They might not even have a football team next year.
Well, considering that they had like only 16 guys on JV and 18 on varsity, I think that's unfortunately a possibility, which is too bad because they've always had good support there. They've had some really good teams too. They've always had good QB play fun, high scoring games. I think Tim Lugo's a really good coach. I just think things have run dry. And I think demographic changes at the school probably haven't helped with that.
I don't understand how Saratoga, that is a public school, if a ton of people can not field a team when we have 700 kids and can easily field a JV and varsity
Yeah,
team.
it's just the demographic part of it.
Yeah, their band has a ton of people.
Look at Mission San Jose over in Fremont is over 2,000 kids. They can't field a team. Westmore in Daly City has something like 1,800 kids. They don't have a football team. It's a lot of it is demographics and culture. And I think, Saratoga doesn't help probably that they're a school that, prestige, very, very prestigious, focused on, top test scores in the nation. And then you combine that with demographics and the whole tech population, a lot of kids of tech employees and stuff. I think it's just kind of the perfect storm.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it's just unfortunate for Saratoga. So yeah,
Wait, I have a question. We play them in soccer. Does the school Prospect have a football team?
Yes, they were in the B division. They were in Pioneers League.
Oh, they're in San Jose's thing. Okay.
Yeah, they're technically, yes, they're in Saratoga, but they're in the BVAL rather than the. It's funny because they're in that league, and then Lynbrook is with all of the other Santa Clara County schools, even though they're actually from San Jose.
Yeah.
there's so many San Jose teams I didn't even realize.
That league has. There's more than 20 schools in San Jose, so there you go.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, it's Division 4.
Who would you have winning if you had to say someone? Obviously, I you know who I have, but would you have a Homestead?
I've been going back and forth between any of the four of Homestead, Hillsdale, Pioneer, and SHP. I really think it could be any of them. I think the problem with Pioneer is, their records are inflated a bit by playing in a league that isn't that good, but I've seen most of the teams in their division. Silverado's not bad, Branham's not bad, and Pioneer crushed them. Lee is pretty good, and Pioneer beat them. Westmont's not bad, and Pioneer beat them. But
Yeah,
for the last few years, BVAL teams have just struggled in the playoffs. And Homestead, I don't know if they can rattle off 3 wins in a row because they've been so up and down. I think it comes down to that semifinal between SHP and Hillsdale, although don't rule out Lincoln beating Hillsdale. Lincoln is not a bad team.
Yeah, I think this could go a lot of ways.
I like that bracket.
Yeah,
I can tell you this: almost every game in this bracket will be really fast because these teams are very run heavy. It's not like you're going to have 3-4 hour games. It's going to be mostly pretty quick, efficient football.
Yeah.
Versus if Sacred Heart, or sorry, if SI played Terra Nova, that game would be a long game.
Oh yeah, or like, which one was it I saw?
I think Palo Alto Christopher is gonna be a long game. We both are extremely pass heavy.
Yeah, that's a D3, right? That's where we're headed next here.
Yeah, headed next. So let's go to D3.
I hate this bracket personally.
Yeah, I don't really like it either because I just don't know much about any of these teams, but that's what you're for.
All right, yeah, I've seen a few of them. I actually think this is going to be one of the more fun brackets. I really love the Lee SHC Mountain View Live Oak side. Whoever wins those first round games, that's going to be a super fun second round matchup, no matter what way it ends up, no matter how you slice it. And then I'm curious to see if Scotts Valley, even though they're a winner of what is, I believe, considered, I think it was technically classified as a C league rather than a B league. They crushed pretty much everyone they faced this year, other than Santa Cruz, who's undefeated. I'm really interested to see how they stack up against a Leland team that kind of just gives the ball to the same guy, Mark Eby, on almost every single play.
Yeah.
Lee can kind of do the same thing with Sam Betts, whereas SHC has a lot of guys who could be D1 athletes, but consistency is their issue. Sometimes they really hurt themselves with penalties or turnovers. I mean, Casey, you saw them at the start of the year, and they're playing pretty well lately, aside from that weird loss to Reardon. But
Yeah.
they've got some athletes, and they got some size.
They got Mixon's little nephew with Jerry, and then they got Bruce Uprace, and then number 99 is a beast. So
99 Silas Balibi is a great story. So he's from Ethiopia, actually. This is like his first year playing football. He's a monster. He's going to be college coaches are going to love him because he's going to be able to develop so much more.
At halftime, we had to make adjustments to stop him. We had to change everything up. They're like 99 is getting through, and we had to do some stuff.
Yeah, like the Bruce Mahoney game when they beat SI, they could not stop 99 at all. SI had no answer for him.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how we were for 77 on Milpitas. I forgot his name, but
Vita
all the O linemen on our team were saying that's the best D lineman they faced all year.
And shout out the left tackle for Palo Alto High, Kala Vasca. Big fan of the show. So shout out.
Awesome. Let's see. Malachi Brown is 77 for
Malachi Brown. Yeah, I heard his name.
I remember him being a pretty solid player.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Mountain View Live Oak game is a sneaky, really good matchup too. Mountain View, they've played a bunch of tight games. They've got, their Wilcox loss was a 2-score game, and even that they had a chance to tie the game and then fumbled at the goal line, and Wilcox went down the other way and scored. They have 2 1-point losses because of missed and blocked extra points. They have a 4-point loss to Homestead. They could easily be 8-2. The only team that's beaten them comfortably is Los Gatos. And then Live Oak, that loss to Leland, a lot of things had to go wrong for them to lose that game. Live Oak's good. They've always got a very mobile QB. They can run the ball well. They're tough defensively. They're usually just a really good program.
Yeah. Mountain View played them week 3, and they beat us. Their run game was amazing, really. I mean, we couldn't stop them that well. And their quarterback didn't do much. I mean, they just really handed the ball off. But their defense wasn't great. I mean,
they've also got a pretty big tight end, I know. I remember him being pretty good as like a sophomore. I think Gefkin.
Maybe. I mean,
yeah, and they have that huge 78 on the offensive line.
Oh, yeah. Orlando Brown Jr. son as a beast.
Yeah, what's interesting about Mountain View is sometimes they've had some pretty good receivers and QBs, but they've usually stuck with the ground game because that's just kind of always been their model. But they can throw it some if they want to. It's just, they're very set in their ways, and, the system stays strong year in, year out, and they like to be consistent with that.
Yeah, I mean.
What's the next one here? Oh, Palo Alto Christopher. Rosie O'Terry, Christopher linebacker. My boy Shay, who's the leading tackler in CCS, he likes Rosie O'Terry because he's the second leading tackler, and he finally passed him last week.
He's good, yeah. He's also kind of one of those do-it-all guys. You can plug him in as a receiver. You can hand it off to him. They've also got a really lengthy receiver, whereas number 16, Jatarius Lee, he's a good player. And their QB, Spencer Gorgulo, he's really undersized, but he can throw. And it's not like he's just, flinging it up and hoping someone catches it. Even though he's, I think, 5'7", if even that, he's really solid. He's really consistent.
Yeah, I was watching film today on them because we got the film today. Yeah.
Which game was the film of?
It was they had Selena's film, and we also got what's the team that Sagar is playing in?
Starts with an A.
Yeah, starts with an A. We had Alisal. We had their film as well. I watched the Alisal film. And number 13.
Yeah, they shut out Alisal. I think they have 4 shutout wins on the year. Yeah,
that defense is what we should be concerned most with.
Yeah, they have 4 shutout wins, but they also do have 3 games where they've allowed at least 38 points. So those 3 were Aptos, who runs the best wing tee you'll ever see, Palma, who up until this past week had been putting up 40 on a lot of teams,
Luke
and
Gross.
Salinas, which has two really good receivers and
Yeah, those are three respectable
good
losses.
QB. Oh yeah, I think they're very clearly cemented as like the number 5 team out of 9 in their division, in the Gavilan division. It's like there's a very clear top class and bottom class, and they're clearly between the two. But that they only lost to Hollister by 7 is really impressive. I think it's going to be a really good test. I'm just curious to
Hollister
see.
in the playoffs?
Sorry?
Is Hollister in the playoffs?
Yeah, Hollister, San Benito. They're technically San Benito High, but
Oh,
most
okay.
people just call them
They're
Hollister.
the one seed
They
in
have a giant
D2.
H logo,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. They played Wilcox.
Mhm. But I'm really interested to see what their line looks like, because they've had a lot of injuries on the line. They actually had one of their fullbacks change jersey numbers so he could fill in at one of the offensive line positions, and he actually did a very good job.
Poor guy.
But he actually volunteered to do it. The coaches didn't tell him to. He asked, because he had done it on the freshman team. And then with Leland, Mark Eby, I think, is probably going to be the MVP of the Mount Hamilton division. I would think he wins that.
Yeah.
Especially
So,
considering
yeah.
he's
Is
had
UNC legit?
They're pretty good. They are somewhat thin numbers wise. I know sometimes they'll just kind of, if all else fails, they just go into these rugby scrum plays and just give it to Eby again and again. But they also have a couple of pretty lengthy receivers, pretty big guys.
Mhm.
And that they beat Live Oak is very impressive. It's been, they've allowed 104 points this year.
Wow.
And they're doing that against pretty good competition. I mean, the only team that's really gotten much against them was Wilcox. And even so, 35 points allowed to Wilcox is not bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a couple of receivers that are like really long, and even if they don't like have height that jumps off the page, they got really long arms, and they can be trouble. I think they're going to be a tough out, but I really think whoever comes out of SHC's side of the bracket, I really think is, whether it be SHC, Lee, Mountain View, or Live Oak, I think that's the team to beat in the final. But
yeah,
you could honestly make a case for any of these 8 teams. I haven't really seen Scotts Valley, but
yeah. Are they nobody, or are they actually?
lead.
Who's their loss?
Santa Cruz, who's undefeated.
Yeah, but they're kind of frauds too. I think they're gonna get crushed.
We'll see. I'm rooting for them because if we win, then we get a home playoff game. But yeah, I'm a little worried about the Christopher game because they are really pass heavy from what I've seen, and we're really thin in the secondary right now because a lot of our corners have gone down with injury. But I think it's gonna be a really competitive game, and I'm looking forward to it. But
yeah, there should be a good crowd. They usually draw well down there. Their stadium isn't huge, but it'll fill up.
You could go to Gilroy Garden
because it's Gilroy.
It sucks that we're not going to really have an away student section though because it's in Gilroy. So.
Yeah, but it'll still be a fun trip.
Yeah, Sacred Heart would travel, but Paul doesn't have that same. We don't have that same.
And that's also once you get past South San Jose and you get stuck in traffic around Morgan Hill and stuff, and then it becomes a more lengthy trip. But yeah, I think this is a wide open bracket.
I personally have Cathedral winning it. I think they can play Pally in the finals. I think the San Jose teams are like frauds, so I don't trust them. But I definitely have Cathedral winning it. I think that team's legit. They have good defense. Mixon's is a baller. Their QB is a little worrisome, but they run it a lot with number 7. I forgot his name. I think Regan's a third. Derek Regan's a third.
He's been he's been all right. They've grown to trust their QB more as the years gone on. 7 Spears.
Oh, Rajon Spears, that's his name. Yeah.
Yeah. He's more of a basketball kid, or at least experience-wise. So he's really been learning on the fly. And I know he was injured at one point, and I know he missed the game against St. Francis. But since then, he's really taken off, and he can make some really dynamic plays in the open field.
Yeah.
So I think Cathedral's definitely the team to beat in this. I would agree with you. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think Cathedral definitely has the best chance to win this thing if it's not Palo Alto. I
still think don't sleep on Live Oak. This could be the 3rd postseason out of the last 4, out of the last 5 years. There was no postseason last year where SHC meets Live Oak. They've split the last 2 times with the road team winning both.
Okay.
but Mountain View could just as easily beat Live Oak, and don't sleep on Lee. I don't know if you've seen Lee at all, but Sam Betts, number 8 for Lee, is just a monster on both sides. Almost everyone on Lee plays two ways. They only have, like 25, 30 guys, but they can all play.
Division 2, I love this bracket. Great bracket, and I'm pretty familiar with all these teams here.
Yeah, because 6 out of the 8 teams at least, or actually 5 out of the 8 teams, at least one of us have played. So
I think other than San Benito, Palma, and Santa Cruz, yeah, so you get, and I've seen all of these teams except for Santa Cruz, and I actually haven't seen Half Moon Bay yet this year, but that'll change Saturday. And Half Moon Bay, you know what they're going to run, even if you haven't seen this particular version of them. And I've been following them closely, so I'm still quite familiar.
yeah, it's a good team. I mean, they were in a shootout with Sacred Heart. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I was on JV last year, we played Santa Cruz JV, but I don't really know much about this Santa Cruz team. I mean, they have a 9-0 record. And then but I think Wilcox will handle them. I mean, unless I mean, I can't really speak on it because I haven't seen Santa Cruz, but Wilcox is a really good team. So
yeah, Santa Cruz has not played a lot of great opponents. They would have had a decent test with Gilroy, but that game got wiped out because Gilroy had COVID issues, which is also why Gilroy had played North Salinas on Saturday instead. Santa Cruz did beat up North Salinas, and most years Carmel dominates that league, but Carmel is down this year, and Santa Cruz beat them by 40. But they haven't had a close game all year, and they really haven't been battle tested. And to go from that to a team that has the level of speed Wilcox has, and to have to face guys like Luther Glenn and what's his name, number 21? He's like the sophomore who plays in the secondary for Wilcox.
I know who you're talking about.
No, not 21, 31. Elijah Walker.
Oh yeah, Elijah Walker.
Super underrated player. I think this bracket lines up really nicely for Wilcox as a whole. I think they could.
Yeah.
Actually, they're my pick to win the whole thing.
But Palma's good too. And Casey, you said the caller called you back.
Yeah. Will Maxwell. First of all, you want to ask Ethan Castle anything?
Well, I was just listening. I've been calling Casey for the last minute, and I just heard the voice of an angel. It's such an honor to be on the call with Ethan Castle. I know we've been DMing over Twitter, but now to really hear your voice, it's great. So my question is, I obviously know Castle and Ethan Castle Media is the sports analysis, but I want to know more about Ethan. Just what do you like to do just in your free time? Who's Ethan? Awesome.
Well, let's see.
What's your favorite artist?
You guys want to know just my kind of background, or?
Yeah, sure. Where'd you go to high school?
So I went to Burlingame, graduated in 2014 with Frankie Ferrari, who you may know as one of the people who's been really influential in Aiden Broch's basketball career. Frank was playing overseas until recently. He played USF, where I also went, and then he played professionally in Spain for a while. And I've always been around sports in some capacity. Was never a very good athlete, but when I wasn't good enough to play anymore, stay involved, whether I was as a student manager, umpire, and then got into journalism really during my second year of college, kind of just relaying updates to Mitch Stevens in the Chronicle, and just kind of continued ever since that with high school sports. I really got into it through high school basketball. I went to football games when I was in high school, but my appreciation of high school sports really stems from basketball, where I was the student manager and just got to really enjoy being part of some really good teams. I mean, our worst season at Burlingame when I was there was 19-10. And we had 3 league championships, 2 league tournament championships, a section title, a win over Sarah. And it was just, every night we were either playing a good team or scouting someone good. And, when you get to watch all those games, whether you're on the bench with a clipboard or whether you're in the stands scouting or just showing up at a game to watch Aaron Gordon, you really start to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Respect. Would you ever consider being a coach? Castle? I think that sounds pretty good.
Maybe way down the road, but I think I really appreciate being unaffiliated with any specific team or school, because you can just kind of go and seek out the good games.
Yeah, you can.
It's honestly the really lousy thing about being directly affiliated with the team, whether it's as a player, manager, coach, was when you're playing against some team that you're going to beat by 40 and there's some other matchup, like, you're playing against whoever's, at the bottom of the league. And the same time, there's going to be 2,000 people packed into the gym to see Mitty play Bellarmine. And it's like, you'd rather skip your own game and go to that. In fact, we had a couple of assistants that would, if we had a really lousy opponent, they would just go out and scout instead because, like, we don't need you to be here for this running clock game. We're just going to go get film of some good teams and honestly probably have a better time there.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know what it's like when you're playing a game where, you're up by 50 and it's like, man, I wish I was watching, the game of the week right now,
Yeah, yesterday I was looking trying to watch Sarah.
Like, get the Valpo Bowl and you're just trying to chill and watch the Sarasota Francis game.
I mean, I was keeping an eye on the Valpo Bowl and the other 3 WCAL games. It sucked that all those games were going on at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
I wish one of them could have been a night game because those were all really good matchups. But, Sarah St. Francis kind of stood above the rest just for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
We'll let you go, Will Maxwell, but great question. Yesterday, wait, how was Polynesian Day at Sarah?
Oh, terrific as always. It's one of the best events of the year. You got the giant barbecue, the pig roast, the barbecue chicken, and the music's always great. And, because it was such a huge game, you had so many players and so many alumni come out to watch. I've never seen anywhere near that many people packed in there. They had to have about 5,000 when you included, all the people, all the students and former players that popped in and stuff. It was an event,
There's probably more people at that game yesterday than the Stanford game Friday night.
I would say so. It was like I was driving up about 45, 50 minutes before the game started, and there were already people parking like blocks away over at the Elks Lodge and walking in.
Yeah, and Stanford, just their marketing team's a joke, and they suck, and it's just like no one wants to go watch.
I've actually seen billboards and stuff for them lately. It's just student culture, and
dude,
nobody wants to see punts at, in plus territory and just efficiently running the clock. Efficient wins games, but it doesn't sell tickets.
I am good friends with the coach's son, so I will not put input there. But yes, I've seen the many punts happen.
They find ways to win games. It's not always the most entertaining style, but they find ways to win. I know this has been a tough year for them, but they've had tremendous success, especially for a school that doesn't have, that support. It's not like you can sell kids, you get to play in front of 100,000 screaming fans every Saturday, and they're still managing to bring in really good recruits.
Yeah, true. Good. Yeah. All right. So back to this. We talked about Santa Cruz Wilcox. I think we all got Wilcox in that. And then SI Palma, their quarterback just broke his collarbone, I believe. Luke Rossi, right?
Yes, Luke Rossi. He was having a really good year. Salinas really shut him down Friday night, shut down really all of Palma's receivers. And Palma was also missing their big power back, JC Escudia. He was a game time decision and couldn't go. And while I really like some of the other guys they give carries to, it's just a bad matchup for a Salinas team that's so big and you're not going to be able to dance around them. Where if you have a power back, you can fight through it, try to break a couple tackles and move the pile and pick up those 4 or 5 yard carries. But most years, Palma has some dude who's going to give them like 30, 40 carries. They had, over the past few years, a kid named Anthony Villegas, who I think is a USD. They had a kid named Emilio Martinez. And, every week could be like, 40 carries, 250 yards. And they don't have that. Now they've lost not only their QB, but he was also their top runner. So I actually think SI might win this game.
I agree. Aiden Smith throws those hitches very well. Those slants. You were at SI versus SHP, right?
Yeah, I've seen SI play. I've seen a lot of their games. I think I've seen them play 4 times this year.
Really well coached team.
Yeah, we played.
Oh yeah, and they introduced the new offensive scheme just a couple of years ago. They beat Sarah that year, won the WCAL. They had the crazy good combo of Teddy Buchanan and Danny Ryan. I like the way they've utilized number 8, Charlie Pfeiffer, on both sides of the ball. He actually got some snaps at QB last year, and they've used him in a couple where he gets the snap at QB, but they can stick him anywhere. Stick him at receiver. He can get defensive scores. They have 5 defensive touchdowns in WCAL play. They had a stretch with 5 defensive touchdowns in 4 games.
Jeez. Yeah, and they have big Oliver Stewart too. They
always have a bunch of big tight ends, but they've also got some undersized guys who play really well in the secondary, whether that's Oliver Bly or
Yeah, they have
got
two
a couple
of them.
other guys.
Great
But-
student section too. I love their student leaders. They're good. Probably the second, probably better than ours, to be honest, than us out of the teams I've seen play.
Well, hey, you guys had students travel up to San Francisco for a noon kickoff on a Saturday. That was impressive in its own right.
Yeah, true. I don't know why the JV game was after us that night or that day, but that was weird.
Oh, I had asked their AD. It was, it's like it's a holiday weekend, and we want to give the people that want to go out and do something on the varsity team. We want to give them the extra couple hours.
Yeah,
That's nice.
that was a good
Um,
game.
And do you think
Yeah.
Menlo's undefeated season comes to an end at the hands of Half
I
Moon
think
Bay?
that game's a total toss-up. I'm going to be there on Saturday. Actually, definitely going to do that. As much as I'd love to also be at SHP and
Yeah.
hang out in the box with Tony Martinelli and get a nice free burger off the fine people at the Snack Shack, I think that HMB Menlo game is a must-see event.
I agree.
A few years ago, they played every year, whether it was in the Ocean Division, they matched up in a couple of D5 championships. They matched up in a basketball championship where, after losing them in football, J.H. Tevis hit the game-winning layup in OT.
Cal player.
Yep, and I think it's just going to be a super good game. You've got a Half Moon Bay team that can run on you all day. They've got a really mobile QB who's been running the system. I think this is his third year starting now.
For having been.
Yes, Moffat. I
Oh,
believe
Will
it's his
Moffat,
third
yeah.
year starting.
He won his league, Ocean League, as a sophomore, went 10-0.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, they were placed in D1 that year, and Menlo goes undefeated in Ocean's placed in D2. So I wonder the difference.
The biggest thing was that year they had a couple more wins over A-League teams. They had a win over SHP that year.
True. Yeah. Oh, that was bad. That was a sneak game. That was crazy. But I was a
And the
freshman.
next year, SHP goes back in there and wins one of the best games of the spring season. Teddy leading a great game-winning drive. But it was really just the whole point system, the way it lined up. Because they had the win over Burlingame as well. They had the win over Terra Nova. So they beat 3 A-League teams, whereas Menlo, I believe, they just have the 2 between, or no. I think
3
they have
Kings
2 as well,
Academy.
but yeah, I think because of strength of schedule and stuff, I think it rewarded in quotes Half Moon Bay more, whereas it would have been much fairer for Los Gatos to be that 8th seed and Half Moon Bay to be 1 in D2. But it's just like, should Leland have been the 1 in D3, or should Burlingame have been the 1 in D3, and should the other be the 8 in D2? This is the problem with competitive equity.
Yeah.
We had the same thing happen in basketball. Like
How school
couple years-
size.
Sorry.
It's by school size in basketball if you're not open, right?
Yeah, but when you get to the NorCals and state, then it goes by this, just kind of arbitrary selection.
Mm-hmm.
So, like a couple of years ago, when Campolindo went on their run and won the state title, they had a great team, hands down. But they were the top seed in D2. The bottom seed in D1 that had to go down to Clovis West near Fresno and face a D1 point guard was MA. That could have just as easily been MA winning the championship game in 2019. It's just
I remember that. The
it's
crazy
very arbitrary, but
I just
I
feel
think-
bad for this Half Moon Bay team because playing at Menlo is so boring unless it's available because they have this stupid grass field that sucks, and then they have no fans. Like their student section is awful every game except it doesn't feel like a football game when you're there. Our whole team went to watch them play Terra Nova and they just had no students. We'll always have a student section except yesterday they did show up. I'll give them credit for that.
yes, I was at that Menlo Terra Nova game. I was over in the press box, and I was just like losing it at the idea that Terra Nova was punting on 4th and 3 at the Menlo 36.
David Shaw was over at Terra Nova.
That was, I don't think even David Shaw would go that far. And then, right away they gave up a 90-yard drive after, and they also had that like 3rd and long at their own 2, and instead of just running it, they tried throwing and took a safety, and they were just, that stood out to me. But I remember years ago joking with the Menlo PA guy, he could say what he just said, the kids just blindly cheer if he says first down nights. He could just, do whatever, just say first down nights and then someone cheers. It was really funny, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but they're good this year. I think it's actually gonna be a good game because the Menlo defense is much better than I expected. I thought it was
Oh
gonna be
yeah, they're solid.
They balled out. So yeah,
Terra Nova
Sergio's not even
6,
good of a Sergio's not even the best passer. I mean, he got a shovel pass and that counts as a touchdown. So like, I don't know. He's a really good runner. He's actually a better runner than passer.
I really like him as a runner. That Terra Nova game really showed that off.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a super fun and obviously high scoring game. I do wish it was at Half Moon Bay just because I love going out to Half Moon Bay and getting a cheesesteak at Jersey Joe's.
Oh, I love cheesesteak at Jersey Joe's.
But we go to Dutch Goose after any game in Atherton, so that works just as well. Dutch Goose is a fun time.
Oh, yeah. After we beat MA on JV, by the way, we're going to beat MA next year. First time in like 6 years. We beat them in JV. We saw Menlo there and told them good time. Oh, yeah. And then last one, D2 is Burlingame versus San Benito, your alma mater, Burlingame.
Yeah, it's a tough draw for them. They're going to have to go in and, first off, it's a long trip. They get huge crowds down there. It's a farm town. It's a football town.
Oh, San Benito. Hollister. My friend Colliv is from Hollister.
Yeah, they have great culture down there. They don't have, like massive linemen, but they're good sized at every spot. They got a bunch of big like linebacker tight end types. They run the ball well. They like to, go on a long 8-minute drive and just chunk off yardage. But I think Burlingame has a shot because they have the big playability with Will Urich and also with Charlie Koch. If Burlingame wins, they're going to have to be the ones, making a couple like 40+ yard plays instead of you make it a, 3-4 yards at a time run into the pile. It's going to be a lot harder for Burlingame to do that than it's been for them in a lot of their other games because Hollister's just a lot bigger.
Will Urich committed to Arizona. I mean, does that still count as D1 because it's Arizona?
Yeah, I believe that's a preferred walk-on status. He's good for a crazy diving catch every game.
He is. Yeah, he is a good player. And Ryan
they
Collins
only threw 4 times on Saturday because the game was over by the end of the first quarter. But even so, he had on like a 4th and 11. He had this great diving grab. And he also ran back the opening kickoff for a touchdown.
Ryan calls a great
kicker. Usually a team that's, they defend well. They'll go on a long 8-minute drive. They don't usually have the dynamic big play wow factor that they have this year.
Yeah.
But it makes them a lot more fun to watch.
I love D2. So yeah, let's move on to the best one of the
the main event.
I've got Wilcox winning D2, by the way. I've got Wilcox getting the best of Hollister in a rematch. Neutral field, more experience for Wilcox. I think this is still Wilcox's to lose because when they played him the first time, it was at Hollister. Young QB making his first start. You're on the road. It's a huge crowd, a shiny new stadium. I think on a neutral field, Wilcox is just a little bit better, but I think that would be another really fun game.
Yeah, I think
I've seen them match up before. They play almost every year. It's a really good game for each of them.
I agree with you. I'm gonna head over to the farm for that game and try to hit like a ranch on my way out.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, let's talk about D1 now. Gatos Bellarmine. I mean, this is just a great game. I mean, we got a bunch of great games in here. I mean, let's get away. Like St. Francis is obviously going to win the first game. And
I don't know, man. Aptos runs that triple T wing offense or whatever you call it.
They run the wing T to perfection.
It's perfect.
And they run it so fast. But I think against a bigger team, the one team that beat Aptos all year was Salinas, and Salinas didn't just beat them. They beat them 42-14. It was 21-14, and then they really pulled away. And Aptos is playing guys both ways. And St. Francis, they got a few two-way players like Arquette, and a couple of their linemen will go both ways. But St. Francis can stay fresh, whereas most teams with all the two-way guys, Aptos can tire out. They're going to have to draw up some crazy trick plays or something to win this game. Aptos is a really well-coached team. You ask any coach who's got, a wing T offense, they learned it from Aptos's coach, Randy Blankenship. He is terrific, but
so like Gun.
Yeah, Gun's more of a double wing. There's
it's like a double.
Whereas the wing T is a little bit
different.
Burlingame runs a wing T. Yeah, the wing T is more what Burlingame does. Although
let's put it in. Coach Ed works for us now. Installed it in the 80s with John Gilmore. He brags about it at practice like every day.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what Aptos has, except theirs is a bit more up tempo, and it's it's like they're always rattling off 8-yard gains, and then suddenly they break off a run for 20, and it's very hard to keep up with who has the ball because they get the plays off quickly.
Yeah, they kind
They
of
hand
hide
it
it.
off
Yeah.
quickly. It's not like they telegraph the play.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
what's the next
but
one?
Probably going to get crushed, but they deserve some respect and appreciation because they're a great program.
They
Yeah.
should want to be in D2, honestly. Like, personally, I know the Menlo guys, they're all kind of wimps. They would, if they were offered the 8 seed in D1, they would have much rather been in D2 because they want to have their season longer. Like, do you know
Exactly.
they
That's
cried
the problem
to,
with
they cried
competitive
to AL
equity,
to stay in the Ocean last year because they wanted to move them up, and they said we need to stay in the Ocean because they wanted to win. They're
No,
scared.
it's like, you'd rather be considered the 9th best team in the section, the 8th best team. Hollister got called the 9th best team. Aptos got called the 8th best team. And it's funny because they were supposed to play head to head, didn't because of COVID, because they're in the same league. So it basically was just left to the committee to figure out, all right, which of these two is better, or to the computer system. And I guess Aptos beating Campolindo so badly probably carried the weight, though. Hollister kept Salinas way closer. Hollister beat Wilcox. I don't know. That's the whole problem with competitive activity. It's like, cool, we get close playoff games, but we don't reward the best teams.
I'm with you on that.
And this Salinas MA game is gonna be really good. Who do you got winning this one?
Matt McLeod versus those DBs, man. It's gonna be a game.
Both QBs, Matt McLeod versus Adam Schaefer, is going to be awesome. I think MA, but it's going to be a high scoring back and forth game. Both teams can rip off a ton of big plays. You can have Jalen Moss go for an 80-yard touchdown at one end, and then Isaiah Hunter do it for Salinas.
Yeah.
If you guys were watching the teams further south in the section, you guys would be blown away by this kid, Isaiah Hunter. I know Fresno State really likes him. He's been talking with San Diego State as well, and he's only a junior. I think that's the thing. This Salinas team is very junior heavy, and MA is much more senior heavy. And I think that little extra experience is what's going to give MA the edge. But it's going to be a really fun game, and two very similar QBs. Although McLeod's more of a downfield passer, whereas Schaefer kind of hits his guys on the swings and slants. They're very similar in that they will both do anything to keep a play alive. They hate to take sacks, even if it's like, you should probably just take the sack. They'll still try to stay on their feet and chuck something. Sometimes it works well and you're amazed. Sometimes it backfires, but it's certainly exciting. And I think just in terms of like the styles the teams play, this is the most exciting game across all 5 divisions.
So you're going to be heading to this one Friday night, I presume?
Most likely. Los Gatos Bellarmine has my attention too, but I think I'm going to make the trip down to Salinas.
Yeah.
Plus, Salinas' stadium is just awesome. It's
and why is
the same way for like
Rabobank Stadium?
Years.
Is it Rabobank?
No, this is just on campus at Salinas. This is, they call it the pit. There's no track around the stadium.
Wow.
There's hardly any space on the sidelines. The fans are right on top of you.
And
That's
why is
kinda-
Gatos Bellarmine being played at Willow Glen?
Oh, so I think this is for public consumption. San Jose City College is now trying to say, like, if you come to games here, you have to have proof of vaccination, and Bellarmine didn't want to have that extra hoop thrown in, even though, Bellarmine's been very good about vaccine and mask stuff, and I'm sure every kid there is vaccinated.
Yeah.
And so they ended up
Okay, I get that.
kind of
Yeah, I
like
think it's gonna be
searching
good.
around, trying to find a suitable site, and I guess they couldn't get something that usually is a good host like Westmont. Westmont would have been a great site. Westmont's field is really nice.
I like
But
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Westmont's hosted some championships and will probably host some this year too, but they ended up just kind of asking around, and they ended up with Willow Glen, which I'm sure it'll be filled because it's not a big field to begin with. Also, unless something's changed there in the last couple of years, doesn't really have a proper press box, just kind of has a table, kind of like MA.
Oh, dude, it is bad there. They don't even have a press box. I mean, come on. And you have to go through that rowdy student section to get up there. One of my boys was injured and had to film, and he just got chirped going all the way up to film the game.
Oh yeah, see, it's tough because it's harder to see everything, and it's harder if you're actually working.
Burlingame has
you're
2
or,
press
if
boxes.
you're like on the clock and stuff. A
Why does
school as
BH
big as MA needs a proper stadium. I hope that changes.
Why does
They deserve
Burlingame have
A
2?
much bigger facility.
Why does BHS have 2 press boxes?
So the one on the home side used to be the one they used. but they actually aren't using that one anymore because the roof was like all unstable and rickety. So it's like, we can't have people up here to film. We need a new press box.
They should just donate one to Emma.
I like that idea. Kind of like how old scoreboards get donated when a stadium gets taken down. Same deal. Just donate the press box.
Facts.
Just,
All right, and
just
then the
give us a
last
couple of
game.
your 4-star receivers and we'll give you the press box.
Facts. VC at Sarah. St. Juju, Jerion Dickey for VC, but I don't think he can upset Sarah.
No.
Yeah, the game they played the first time was 28-21, but Sarah led that game 28-0 at the half.
Oh, they let them.
I saw highlights of that game. I was thinking of going to that one, but I think Sarah's line is just way too big and way too strong against a Valley team that's got a much younger and less experienced line than usual. And Valley doesn't have, the running back depth that they usually do. They don't have, some power back who can give you, 20 carries and just fight through tackles. Their QB is by far their best runner, and he's really good and really fast, Jackson Berman. But I think Sarah takes care of him pretty comfortably, and I don't think it ends up being as close as it was last time. I think Half Moon Bay's game is going to be the one to go to on Saturday, Half Moon Bay Menlo. But
yeah,
if Sarah's running back, Patel Ogie, makes another crazy catch like he did the first time against Valley, it was this ridiculous one-handed grab, that would actually be worth seeing just by itself.
true.
Yeah, that guy's good. He crushed us. I mean, when Mahasan was healthy, him and Mahasan are a great duo out of the backfield.
Yeah, and he's taken on some more of the pass catching duties without Mahasan as well. The other thing that Sarah's done without him, and they didn't throw a ton against St. Francis. They were, I think it was like 7 of 17 on passes plus one. It was a pass play, but it was technically a backwards lateral. They've got a lot of big tight end slot receiver types to get involved.
Yeah,
And that's something that
Gilmartin's good.
Yeah,
And
Gilmartin's really good. He had 2 touchdowns against St. Francis. He's a D1 player for sure.
I love that kid. He's friends with my boy Conrad Wilbur, who may have tore his ACL yesterday for Sacred Heart. So
Sure.
That would not help the defense.
yeah, we're a young team though. That's the good thing about Sacred Heart. I was thinking about this when you were talking about Salinas. We're a very junior heavy team, so next year is going to be a big year, and that's kind of why they moved the quarterback. Both quarterbacks are pretty solid players, but they moved it just so this junior QB can get some experience, I think, for next year.
Yeah, it's like you want to have the continuity, and it's like, as much as you want to reward your seniors and play them, if you've got a junior and a senior that are, on similar levels, it just makes more sense to play the junior to get them experience because they're going to be around longer.
It sucks. It does suck for Jack, who's been waiting, but I mean,
yeah, and he's had a pretty nice season. He's led a couple of pretty impressive game-winning drives, but I know he got some reps against Menlo. I hope there's some opportunities for them both to play.
Yeah, maybe they could do like something that some NFL teams are doing now. Just in certain situations, bring in the guy who's more experienced, or stuff like that.
Yeah,
I've seen a few college teams go with 2 QBs.
Yeah,
St. Francis actually did it during the spring season. We want to thank our senior and let him play, but that was also different because there was no playoffs to play for. It was such a weird season, but they rotated in 2 QBs.
Yeah,
as I did it the year they went 8-2 and beat Sarah. They actually, Buchanan was the star, but they were able to rest him and let him focus on defense.
And one of their
losses by giving some other series.
They lost to Sacred Heart that year. That was the craziest.
They did, yeah. And that's why they were so hoping they could get another shot at you guys, and they were, they were gonna get it in. I think they were gonna play in 2020, and then that obviously didn't happen. So most of the guys that played in the game this year didn't, weren't there or weren't playing last time, or were just JV kids the last time.
Yeah.
But that's always a fun matchup. I hope SI and SHP keep playing for years. Those have been such good games.
They're my number 2 hope for next year's non-league after Palo Alto. Yeah,
that would be fun.
All right.
I'd also love to see
who do you got winning D1? I assume St. Francis, but you got any upsets? Like I personally have Los Gatos winning against Bell.
I have both Los Gatos and MA winning. I think both those games could go either way. I think Los Gatos is just a little bit too big. Bellarmine's got some really dynamic players. They've got a lot of speed at a lot of spots, and they can really spread the ball out. But I think Los Gatos just has a little too much on the line.
Yeah, those Los Gatos boys are physical, man. I mean, I played a lot of
I
that
think
game.
that's going to be a great game.
I played a lot of that game at linebacker, and I mean those linemen, they can hit. I mean, they're strong, they're physical, and that's how that team is based around. They're not, they're not better athletes than anyone, but they're disciplined, they're strong, and they're physical, and that's how they win their football games.
And they've always got a good tight end. They had, a couple years ago, Will Schweitzer. They had a left tackle a couple years ago that went to USC. Their best player now is a Boise commit.
Yeah, Jake Rip is.
I think that's actually a super interesting matchup. And the more I think about it, I feel more confident that Los Gatos Bellarmine is going to come down to the final possession. Whereas I think M.A. Salinas will have more of like the wow 80-yard touchdown, one-handed catch type of plays, but could end up as, like a 2-score game because, there's a late turnover or something and then it gets put away. But I think both those games are going to be tremendous, whichever one I end up going to. I think I'm going to go down to Salinas just off the fact that Salinas' stadium is so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get they do it right. They got a huge student section. The student section is actually behind the goalpost. They've got seats in the end zone. And they'll run out through like purple and yellow smoke and stuff. And just I'll link you guys after. I'll send you like videos of what games look like there because it's really neat. You guys would like see it and it's like, man, I want to go play against these guys because it's an event.
Yeah, I mean, all these games are pretty exciting. So yeah, I think it's all going to shape up pretty well. Although I think we all got St. Francis ultimately taking it.
Yeah, I think Sarah keeps them closer the second time around.
Yeah,
because I think at some point Sarah forces. There were no turnovers in yesterday's game. I think when they play again, I think Sarah keeps it closer because they're going to be able to force a turnover at some point.
Yeah.
But I don't think they will necessarily have enough to beat them. And honestly, maybe if you had Mahasen and Villaroman, that's the other guy. Joey Villaroman's been out all year too. And that's your two fastest, best receivers. So they don't have as much of that big playability. Most of their big plays are now they're going to come off of either blown coverage or Patello breaking a couple tackles.
Yeah. And a question I have before we wrap is, do you ever wish you could like teleport? Because there's so many good games on Friday night,
I know. I want to be everywhere at once. There was one a couple years ago, actually. So I was originally at a Los Gatos Wilcox game. We also had a student reporter there, and game was like over by halftime. Wilcox was crushing them. So I actually just got up and left, drove like 20 minutes up to Foothill College and caught the end of the Reardon Midi game instead.
Yeah, I mean, if Salinas MA ends up being a blowout, I mean, you guess you could go to, I mean, I don't know. You're not going to really go to San Jose, I guess.
Yeah. That's about an hour or so between the two. So that would be a little tougher. But again, I think both those games are going to be good. It's just the difference is one is going to be more, I think, like I said, I think there's no way Los Gatos Bellarmine doesn't come down to,
it's got
a late 2-minute drill one way or the other. Whereas M.A. Salinas, there's going to be like, Sports Center caliber plays.
Facts. I do got to advise you to, the tweeting while driving. I've noticed. You said it
Voice text, man. Voice text.
Oh, voice text.
Smart.
Is it?
I've always got my phone mounted on a magnet, so that hooks into the AC, so it's not like I'm looking down. It's the peripheral vision.
Yeah.
You guys know about peripheral vision as football players. You know all about that.
Yeah. What car are you repping?
Good old 2006 Honda Accord.
Facts. If I see that at a game, I'll be hyped.
Got closing in on 250,000 miles on it.
Ooh.
Solid. Yep. All right. Oh, and so the Cal football team got screwed, man. I mean, we just
awful.
BS.
Are you a Cal fan?
Most of those guys tested negative, and the city of Berkeley's health officer, wanted to have control while they still could. That's
He definitely doesn't care about football, as you can tell. No one in Berkeley seems to care. So
No. Berkeley does have the best food of any college town. Like if you rank every college town, Berkeley wins on the restaurant scene.
True.
But it's not like you're going to find that game day atmosphere that you get at like, Texas A&M or any of those.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great episode. And we'll
thank-
still bring you on, to check in on high school football. Your high school football main analysis here, obviously.
Appreciate it. And I'd love to talk during basketball season too,
Oh, yeah.
True.
able to do it. Plus with basketball, it's not like everyone's playing at the same time. So you're able to see a little bit more, go to a game Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah. SHB has Emmer returning, Emmer Nichols and
Aiden.
Yeah. So they could be an open.
I think they should be.
Pally basketball is
It'd
gonna
be a
suck.
fun year.
What's
Pally
up?
basketball's gonna suck, but we're a baseball school, so it's okay.
I do really like Coach Lemire. He's a great guy and he's done a good job there,
I think the players
Even
like
if you
him
guys
too.
don't have a scorer, you guys are going to defend the lights out. You guys are going to keep teams in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, I mean Sebastian Chancellor's a good player. Matt Corrigan, Ryan Lycan. I mean, we got a few players, but I think it's definitely gonna be a down year for probably basketball.
That's where, when teams run dry, that's where the system and the foundation keeps you at least half decent and consistent.
Right. I think the coaching will keep us, where we could be. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun. Really excited for this week.
Yeah.